What is going on, everyone? This is Rob from Captain Rob Games, and today we are going to be discussing the big announcements today coming from Dead by Daylight. Of course, the new killer reveal, the new map reveal, as well as a couple feature reveals that kind of scare me quite a bit. So we'll get right into it. So first things first, the new map will be the Raccoon City Police Department, I assume. Based on the first looks of the map looks absolutely beautiful. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be another indoor map, which will have some interesting interactions between how it goes with stealth killers and how ranged killers tend to struggle in these kind of maps. I see some features that are very similar to Midwich. I hope that the structure does not play out similarly to Midwich. There seem to be a lot of different rooms, a lot of different themes. I'm very excited about that. A lot of different kind of environments, so it won't feel as much as the Stranger Things map, where it felt very much the same thing all the way throughout, just the standard laboratory setting. This looks very good. My concern is that just the raw number of rooms that we've seen so far. I do have concerns about the size of the map. Again, we won't be able to make judgments on balance till a little bit down the road, but strictly on aesthetics and what I've seen so far, looks very cool. We'll see if it ends up being a survivor side of map, a killer side of map, or a balance map, but for the time being, we're just going to say, you know what, this looks fantastic. We'll have plenty of time to play test it in the future. Not going to worry about that just yet. For survivors, we will be getting Jill Valentine, which they are saying her perks will reflect her intensive training. Don't really know what that means yet. And then we'll go into a little bit later in the video. They also reveal the other new survivor, Leon. And we don't know much about him either. They did not go over the perks just yet, but they had mentioned that one of his perks will involve getting a flashbang grenade. I don't know what that means, but as a person that plays killer a lot, I'm already very nervous about that. I would suspect that it would actually work similar to the firecracker from the events, and if so, that sounds like it would be fairly counterable from the killer, pretty easy to deal with, so we'll see. And of course, the big factor, we have the new killer, the Nemesis. Now here's the thing, Nemesis, pretty cool animations and everything, seems to have that same creepy, stalky vibe that he has in Resident Evil. On a first look of his power and abilities, I don't necessarily think he's going to be that strong. I mean, as you can see in these situations, I can't even tell if he's hitting the survivor or not. He has it seems like a similar to Plague, but potentially weaker mechanic, where he has a ranged attack. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it infects them. Again, until we can understand how this really fundamentally works in the mechanics, we're going to have to test it and play it on PTB. But it seems like he can break pallets using it, as was just demonstrated right there. And is a ranged attack that will power up as you continue to play. I think it's definitely an interesting concept. I don't necessarily think he will be on the strong side of things unless the zombie mechanic that they just featured ends up being a big issue. The zombies, it appears, can also infect you, and it almost seemed like they injured one of these survivors. Now, if the survivors can't really combat these zombies, I can see that being really disruptive and potentially just awful and unfun. You don't want to be using pallets like that, especially not a god pallet like that, to kill a zombie or something. So if these zombies are disrupting gen pressure, he will end up being really strong. But his base kit does not seem particularly strong. I think it is going to come down to the fact of whether or not the zombies make a big impact on the match. I'm just going to say right now, I have a hunch that the zombies are either going to be a non-factor or they are going to be truly obnoxious. I don't see a way that they'll be able to balance that well, but we'll see. And again, we'll play test that as things go on and give you our own kind of thought process. And finally, I wanted to discuss some of the features they're adding. So some of these features I've actually seen in other games that I've played. Some of these features are fantastic ideas that they've needed for a very long time, and some of these are terrible ideas. So first they discuss incentives for players to play the role that is more needed at this time. This is something that World of Warcraft actually implemented to get more players to play the required tank and healer roles so that queue times could be greatly decreased. So they will potentially be implementing something like that. Realistically speaking, that's just going to decrease survivor queue time. Killers are almost automatic every single game as it is. So that should make survivor queue times a little bit more bearable. I think that is a fantastic add. And then here we get to the part that I'm very, very concerned about. An auto ban feature. This is a feature that many games have openly used. Many games people believe they used or they caught them using it, and they denied it. But this auto ban feature has been controversial in almost every single game that it has ever been in. It is just not a good idea. It is a very, very not good idea. It allows people to essentially gang up and mass report people they don't like, and because it's automatic and there's no human intervention, it ends up causing issues and it causes unwarranted bans. Now, something that I kind of wanted to point out with this is that big streamers could potentially be victims of this. Trolls can basically get a group of people together, or even hackers can get people banned pretty easily by just mass reporting them. We actually saw this in other games. And back to World of Warcraft, because again, this is a feature that they had implemented. I don't know if they came out and admitted they did, but they basically got caught in Battlegrounds, which are their player versus player environment. Players were mass reporting players on the other team to get them banned in the middle of a match. And some people have reported this as being a serious problem. Auto ban can be exploited by bad actors, and it is a serious problem in my opinion. And if you think, I think Dead by Daylight is probably even worse because every single game is 4v1 asymmetrical. I mean, let's say survivors are total jerks and a killer reports them, that's going to be one report. That probably isn't going to mean anything, right? But if a Survive with Friends, a 4-man, is being extra toxic and they don't like the killer or they don't like the fact that they lost, all 4 of them can report that killer, right? So I have a lot of concerns about this system. There are a lot of things that they're going to have to catch. There's a lot of things, because if one killer reports a survivor, that would, in theory, have 1/4 of the weight as a Survive with Friends that groups as 4 in a match. There are a lot of ways that it can be manipulated, and there are a lot of things that they're going to need to look into and make sure that they're protecting their players against these things. They need to make sure that you can't report players that you have not recently played against. That has to be a factor. And my concern is that this system may not be very well thought out. There are a lot of factors that you have to consider when making an autoban system to prevent people from abusing it. And even if you try to think it through perfectly, people will always find a way. So I don't like this autoban feature. I don't think it's good for the game, but I also understand why they are doing it from a company perspective. Every person that you have reading these ban logs, which I'm sure there's a lot in Dead by Daylight, they have to go through all of them and make an adjudicator decision, basically, if there's a person. And that's money that the company has to spend. Right? That's wages that they have to pay. So they want to automate the system so that they can cut their costs. I understand that. I think that that's important. And I understand that with the Resident Evil change, they are expecting a massive influx of players, especially new players, right? So I understand why they're doing it. It's just the autoban is an almost inevitability for all games as they grow, and it's very unfortunate because it is a terrible thing for a game. It's going to get a lot of people falsely banned. It never works fully the way that you do, and a lot of times there's not good adjudication methods to get unbanned when you've been falsely banned. You basically have to have clout, you have to have a following, you have to complain on Twitter. I suspect, based on what I know about BHVR's past and what I know about the game and what about auto bans in general, I suspect that this is going to unfairly affect killers because it's a 4v1 situation, and I feel like survivors, especially if they're teamed up, they're not going to be reporting themselves, they're more likely to be reporting the killer. Now, hopefully we'll also hit some toxic survivors that piss off both the killer and the other survivors, but I think that a lot of killers are going to be getting bullied with auto bans. So, enjoy! But jokes aside, I really hope they reconsider that, or at the very least, I just hope they found some way to code this well, because I don't like the concept. I think it's terrible for the game. I think it's going to do bad things. The rest of the stuff I'm pretty excited about. Nemesis, based on the gameplay we saw, seems kind of weak, but again, you can't really judge anything based on the preview. Until I get in there and actually get to test them on the PTB and test them against good players, we're not going to know. So that's what we have for today. Lots of promising things, lots of things I'm really excited about, and one thing that I'm really not excited about, we'll see how everything plays out over the next couple of months. Again, per usual, if you like this video, hit the like button for Dead by Daylight news, content, builds, etc. Hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you guys next time.